Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up with you, brother?
Chilling. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Already, I see you had the beats banging in the background. I was about to start bust. I was gonna bust a freestyle real quick, but
I mean, it's never too late.
nah, I
Maybe
ain't got
toward
it
the
no
end.
more. I ain't got it no more. I say that for the young boys.
No doubt, no doubt. Appreciate everybody for joining. This is History Lesson episode 173. I am here with Coke Daniels. Thank you so much, like I said, for joining us this evening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir,
Uh,
man. Thanks for having me, man. I'm really honored. Like, I like what you're doing. I'm obviously familiarized myself with your platform, and I think it's dope what you're doing, man. Telling the history of hip hop, the hidden jewels of hip hop, of a lot of the stories that people may or may not know.
exactly. I don't feel like the magazines gave the proper shine, maybe an
Facts.
article, and that was
Mm-hmm.
it. So I want to take it all the way back and then work our way up to what you have going on in 2022, because you got a lot of fabulous things going on. But let's take it back for those who may not have known or maybe new to you. Where were you born and raised?
Um, I was actually originally born in Illinois, but I moved to Cali when I was like 2 years old with me and my mom, and we settled into a really dope suburb of LA, Pasadena, Altadena area. It's twin cities. I got to say both of them to represent equally for both of them. I mostly grew up in Altadena, but my heart is in with both cities, Pasadena, Altadena. That's definitely the place that molded me into who I became.
Right.
So
Day in the life of Coke as a teenager growing up.
oh man, well, I went to John Muir High School, one of the most legendary high schools in the Los Angeles area. I went there with Romai from the Far Side went to school with me. Troop, Rodney Benford, I think John, a few of them dudes went to Mirror with me. um, Derek Holmes, Stacey Augman, Chad Brown, a lot of legendary NFL, NBA players, as well as, artists and whatnot, went to John Muir. Legendary high school, man. And that's when I first, fell in love with hip hop. Me and a partner of mine named Paige, we used to go to his house after school, listen to records. Um, at that time, it was mostly East Coast hip hop, of course, early on, Run DMC, BDP, that type of thing. Then obviously later on, NWA and Mixed Master Spade and my big homie King T. Um, so yeah, man, I played in the drum section. I chased after girls. Went to football games. Dodged the bullets and the gang fights. A lot of people don't know that Pasadena, is it's a suburb, but it's much like LA. I grew up around a lot of gang violence, and yeah, but it was beautiful, man. It was a beautiful upbringing, and like I don't regret any. It shaped and molded me into who I am. So that was pretty much it. Just doing things young kids did in the late '80s.
Any obstacles you had to endure growing up in California early on?
Um, like I said, just the gangs, man. Especially late '80s, early '90s with the crack epidemic. Like I have a lot of friends that ended up murdered or in jail forever, and I tell people all the time it's so crazy. Like I remember going to school with kids that had Mercedes, 16-year-old kid rolling to school in a Mercedes, Rolex, big Turkish chains and stuff like that. So it was very tempting for me to not take that path, and definitely my mom, guided me away from that type of stuff. I was more scared of her than I was of the police and the gangs.
Right.
So yeah, that was definitely an obstacle, man. And a lot of people fell in that pitfall, and it was very easy to fall in that pitfall because the money was so easy, especially back then. The laws against cocaine and crack were very lax, especially if you were underage. Like you could get caught with a ridiculous amount of crack and be back on the streets with probation, and it was nothing. So yeah, that was mainly it. Just dodging the gangs, dodging the drugs, things of that nature. I just thank God that I had a solid foundation with my mom, and then when I found music, I love music too much. I wanted to do music, so I knew that would inhibit me from, unlike today, it wasn't gangster rap wasn't as prevalent. Obviously, NWA and King T and all them was around, Mixed Master Spade, but there was we came about in an era where there was different flavors of hip hop. Like my group, we were more underground hip hop, which was a new thing for Cali back then.
Right.
The gangster rap exploded, with NWA obviously, but then after that there was a dope underground hip hop movement that not a lot of people know about, and it's unfortunate, You know what I mean? Like a lot of amazing groups came out of that era.
Right. You talked about being in high school and starting to listen to hip hop. What were some of your early influences before you started yourself getting into hip hop?
Breakdancing, breakdancing. You know, I can't dance a lick anymore. I don't know what happened, but I was a dope breakdancer. Uh, Soul music. You know, I was raised around a gospel family, the Browns. They're a notorious family in Pasadena, amazingly talented musical people. So that kind of influenced me early on into music, like watching them sing at church. My uncle Rob had a record deal back then. He put out a record. Yeah, those are my influence, man. Music, culture, dancing, Michael Jackson. I had the Thriller and the Beat It jacket. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was lit. So yeah, that was kind of it, man. Just culture. Like I've always been immersed in the culture, and you know, I think it still shows in my work to this day of my influence from all those things. You know what I mean? Gospel to the there's gospel stuff in my films and hip hop and jazz and all that stuff. My stepdad was a prolific artist who could play like I forget how many instruments, 10, 15 instruments by ear, and just
Mm.
so music was always a part of my life and film. I used to spend a lot of time at the movies. My mother and my grandmother sold antiques, and they would do antique shows. So when they would do these antique shows, this when I was a child, I used to get dropped at the movie theater. This one you could leave your kids places and be safe. Like, and
Right.
I would just go, like, I don't know how many times I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, Jaws. Like, I would just sit there all day and watch movies. So it's so weird that I got into movies later because I really, to this day, I love movies just as much as I love music. So, yeah, those are kind of my influences, man. Video games, the arcade, this stuff kids do.
Right. At what point did you start taking your craft more serious?
Um, I think like I said, honestly, when I see my Uncle Rob get a record deal, and Troop, when Troop got a record deal, because Rodney Benford was my homie. Like me and Rodney Benford used to run around together. So when Troop got signed and blew up, it was this eye opening. Like, wow, these is dudes that I grew up around that are actually like on TV now, on MTV and touring with MC Hammer and In Vogue, and they was lit. So that kind of just made me understand that it was a possibility, especially coming from Dina, because it's outside of LA, and LA was even outside the hip hop culture, at least then at that time, other than gangster rap. So it just it made it seem like a reality to me that I could do something amazing with my life, because a dude that I jumped off the porch with had did it. You know what I'm saying? And they were always singing. We did talent shows with Troop, so they were always like known in the city to be dope singers. Steve Russell is, all them dudes is like iconic in Dina. And they showed me that it was possible. And like I said, my Uncle Rob, when I seen him put a record out, there was a record store in Dina called Pooh Bah's. And I remember going in there and seeing my uncle's record on the shelf. Again, these things just made it real to me that it was tangible, that it didn't just have to be a dream.
Right. What was some of your early pay and do moments? Were you always solo, or did you have a group before Mad Kap?
Not well before then. And it was so funny when we first started doing talent shows. We named our group 2/5 Down, and I don't know if you hip to that, but that was Run DMC's original group name. We were like Run
Okay.
DMC ripoffs at first. Like we wore all Adidas, and then I can't remember. I know one of them's name was Lamont. I can't remember their name, but they were called the Nike Boys, and that was kind of like who we had beef with at the high school. They were all Nike, we were all Adidas. So yeah, and Motique that was in Mad Kap with me was part of that group. And my boy Page, like I mentioned, Joe, who played the horn and all that, he came later. He didn't go to school with us. He came like probably right around we got the record deal with Loud is when Joe came around. But yeah, we just did talent shows and, again, with Troop and, a lot of just other, groups that ended up going somewhere. I think Romai was really just dancing back then. I don't think Romai was rapping when he was in Dina. That was something that came later once he got associated with, with the other cats from the far side.
Right. So, at what point did you transition and start forming Mad Kap?
It was after high school, and then we changed the group to Trilogy, and we, back then, like we was definitely after Run DMC. Then it was De La Soul. Then it was Tribe Called Quest, where like these conceptual hip hop groups started coming back, where your group had a concept. You know what I mean? Like there was just a concept to your group. Like the whole Native Tongues movement really inspired us and a lot of other LA groups. And so we were Trilogy. And eventually I can't remember, we started wearing big hats. So I can't remember if the big hats came first or Mad Kap came first, but it was kind of hand in hand and it fit because we wore like, and I just gotta say something. like Busta Rhymes, the whole Big Hats, BBD, they got that from us. Like definitely for sure, for sure. Busta actually, before we were signed to Loud, we were at the Palladium and came up to us and we all had these big wild Rasta hats on and like these big stupid over the top hats. And he was like, yo, where did you get, you know what I mean? It was ill. So it was kind of, and I think that's what, you know, initially attracted Steve Rifkin to us, is that we stood out in the crowd and we had a concept and we were, you know, a LA group, but we had a, you know, a different sound. So, yeah, so it was after high school. It was a couple years on the grind, meeting a lot of different people. I used to catch buses. I used to catch the bus to meet this lady at Capitol Records. I can't remember her name, but you know, she used to invite me to like picnics and stuff. That she invited me to the Motown picnic one year. Again, all these things just kept opening my eyes. Like, you know, these people are right here. Like a lot of times, you know, especially if you live outside, you know, where the entertainment hubs are, it just seems like those people are just so far fetched and it could never be you. And once I just started, you know, moving in the circles and just, you know, being ambitious. I'm just the kind of person who I've always been like, you know, I'm gonna go out and make it happen. Like if I want to do something, I'm gonna go make it happen. And I'm not gonna stop until it does happen. Like I set goals and then I achieve those goals and I set more goals and, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, after high school is when we started doing demos with my man Broadway, who's also in Pasadena. He went on to produce stuff with King T and Big Daddy Kane, and he worked at MCA Records. So he started producing demos with him and my other boy named Leonard Krosky, LC. So we started doing demos. We shopped it around. I remember one time, you know, we went to the new music seminar. Actually, I seen that you're associated with King Son. We was there that year when him and Ice Cube and them got in that big fight. And actually, one of my goofy homeboys had like a picture of them fighting. Not Cube or nobody. It was some of the homies they were fighting. And anyway, so we went to the new music seminar. We met a lot of New York people. I met Phife Dawg. That's when I first met Phife. We hung out. Algebra, who went on to become a legendary producer, produced Doing It for LL. This cat named Dr. Jam. It just, you know, doors started opening. And again, that was another eye-opener moment. Like I'm sitting, I'm just looking and, oh, there go the Ghetto Boys. They right there. There's Cube. You know, people just walking through the lobby, rubbing elbows. So it just, you know, just all these things just kept opening my eyes and opening my eyes. And, you know, we shot the demo. I had a meeting when I was really young with Russell Simmons, and I'll never forget, like, he invited us to meet with him, and we had this package, and we were Mad Kap. So we put like, this is goofy as hell, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. We had like party favors in the envelope and glitter. It was ridiculous. I'm really embarrassed telling the story, but it was crazy because I just, Dr. Jam, the dude I knew from New York, knew Russell, and he was like, yo, if you ever see Russell, just go up to him and drop my name, and you know, he'll rock with you. And I did. I seen him at some hip hop show. I forgot, and I was like, hey, Russell, Dr. Jam is my boy. Like, I'm in a group. We'd like to, you know, let you hear our stuff. And it was dope. So he, you know, he took a list. He passed, but he took my calls. It was so crazy. Like, you know, he took all my calls and was like, yeah, I got to pass, but hey, good luck. So, yeah, just, you know, the universe is undefeated, man. Serendipity, like just little by little, you know, these chance encounters started happening and just further motivate me to be like, man, we could do this. You know, we could, and at a small level, because where hip hop's reached now, it wasn't that back then. Like back then, if you had a gold record and you could buy 40 ounces and drive a Monte Carlo, you was rich. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different.
Right.
This was before the Bentleys and the $200,000 watches. Like, you know, success was, you know, it was a lot lower bar back then in terms of at least financially. You know, gold record was huge back then. Now people go gold. They're like, oh man, I fell off. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Was that early group still Motif and Joseph, or was there more members in the group?
Nah, not really. That was pretty much it. But we were
Okay.
part of like I always say we were kind of like the original Wu-Tang Clan. We were part of a rap collective out of Dena called 360 that was a group called Final Call, IK, 2020. You know, it was a lot of us, you know, and we were just one group out of this collective, and kind of the, you know, the concept initially was to, you know, one group kicks down the door, then we little by little, you know, try to filter the other groups in or whatnot. So yeah, we were like, we had a whole crew. It was a lot of us, man. A lot of really dope artists too, man. Like a lot of really dope music from that era. My boy True Blue, I don't know if he's watching, if he's out there somewhere, but True Blue keeps all that stuff cataloged. Like it was, we had a dope little unit, man. We had a dope unit.
Very dope. At this time, are you guys frequenting places like the Good Life Cafe?
Not, I wouldn't say frequenting. We were more like in the Hollywood club scene. Like we were at all the clubs. You know, my boy Bigger B, rest in peace. You know, he used to host a club called Unity, and he was a promoter. and Paul Stewart, you know, my other partner, he used to let us in the clubs, and you know, but we weren't even 21 yet. We was probably like 18. You know, I got burnt down on clubs quick because I just knew so many people, and they would let us in when we was young. And you know, again, we got to see so many legendary artists perform back then that used to come through LA and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, we went to the good life, and over the years, I got to know a lot of them cats. You know, and you know, Coco and Medusa, you know, Urban Props, like those are all people I came to know over the years. But Dina was its own thing, and back then it was like even I remember before Snoop really kicked in the door for Long Beach, like you know, Long Beach was a joke, you know, and Dina was considered the same thing. Like, oh, you from Dina? Like you guys are like, you know what I'm saying? Like you live in the suburbs, like, you know, so we were never ostracized, but we just were our own, we were our own planet, you know, we were on our own planet. And but again, eventually we clicked up with a lot of those people. I did a lot of music when I started producing 4-piece from Freestyle Fellowship. And my boy Joe, you know, Yusuf that plays the horn, he did a lot of stuff with Micah Nine and I think Ganja and, you know, some of the other Fellowship people. So yeah, they were inspiration too. I mean, Fellowship, you know, a lot of people haven't heard that first Fellowship mixtape they put out, because when they put their album out, it wasn't the mixtape they put out that's what got them with Dr. Dre. I'll let one of them come on here and tell you that story one day where Dre was about to sign Freestyle Fellowship and they were about to, you know, go to the moon. And so yeah, we wasn't really part of that crowd. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't a great freestyle rapper, like, because the battle rappers that went to my school, like my homie, his name was Poet. I would not even dare rap around that dude. Like there was a lot of them. Rapid RG, like certain cats like that. I wasn't allowed to rap. You know, because it's just like they were just so prolific with the freestyling, and I just, you know, that was never. I was more of a writing rhymes type of dude, you know.
Right. You talked about going to Def Jam. What other labels did you shop before you guys finally landed at Loud?
Capitol. We took it to Capitol. I can't really remember them. It wasn't too long, because what happened was originally Steve Rifkin was a manager. And he signed us to a management company before he had a label. And he had us, and he had my homie Kev and Shane and Scotty and these cats, Poet Society. Kev's now known as Danger. What up, Kev? His new group of Gumbo was really dope. But we signed to Steve first as management. And then he started he probably shopped it around some places before he actually, you know, landed his deal. Because at first, again, he was just a management company and a street promoter. Like, and that was dope too. Like, we used to go to Steve's office, and KRS One to be sitting up in there kicking it, or Pac. Like, we hung out with Pac up there one time because he was promoting Pac's records. So yeah, so initially, like I said, we took it a couple places on my own, just me hustling. And then, like I said, you know, Steve took on the management, and again, he may have shopped it around, I don't really recall. But that was kind of it, at least for, you know, my end of it in terms of, I don't really recall. But that was kind of it, at least for, you know, my end of it in terms of the labels we went to. I know for sure it was Capitol and Def Jam. But I used to run up on people. Like, I ran up on Dre before. I ran up on the Jungle Brothers. Like, I just was that cat where I'd be like, hey man, we trying to get on. Can you know, check out our music. I was that dude. Like, I've always just had that persona about me. You know, you can only tell me no, and I'm already at no. So all I could do is ask. So yeah.
Right. Dope.